All right, gentlemen, welcome back to another video. My clothing brand's gone from making $0 a month to making upwards of multiple six figures a month, and it's not because I'm some genius. All right, Lord knows I'm not the smartest person in the room. The reason it's grown is because I've failed more than most of you guys have even tried. And with all of those failures, I have gained so much invaluable knowledge that I am pretty much beyond confident that I can take any clothing brand and scale them to six figures at minimum, which is exactly what we're doing today. I asked you guys on Instagram last week to send me your clothing brands to review and you guys to live. I mean, we're talking hundreds of DMs from brands that need help. So I'm gonna rate your brands on two primary things, all right? Marketing and then overall positioning. But this isn't some bullshit roasting session, okay? Every single brand that I'm going to review is going to get an exact blueprint to fix their issues and scale their brand to six figures. No matter what experience you have as a clothing brand owner, I promise you that each of these brands that I review will have an issue that you're facing. So grab a notebook, grab a pen, and lock in with me. You're gonna see brands with fire designs but horrible marketing, brands with decent sized followings that can't sell anything because they don't understand the value in building community, and brands that are one pivot away from doing pretty serious numbers but have no idea what that pivot is. So let's get into it. Okay, so brand number one, we're gonna look at Allure New York. First, we're gonna look at their marketing, all right? And you can see their simple product shots are well done because they focus on the product, and you can clearly see the quality of the garments as well as how it looks on body. You know, a lot of brands make the mistake of getting too creative with their simple product shots, but what matters most is how your clothes look and how they fit. But you do need content that actually explains what your brand lore is. Because as of right now, nobody really knows anything behind who you are as a brand owner or what your brand is completely about. I will say this video you made is an attempt at this, but it was just poorly executed, mainly because you're speaking as if everybody already knows your brand, which is why it didn't perform and get any traction. Say when you're creating brand lore and you're doing narrative content, you need to kind of find this balance between speaking to the people who are already invested and to the people who have no idea who you are, because otherwise you're never going to pull new people in. For example, when I started implementing a lot of vintage influence in my designs, I dropped this video to really explain to the people who didn't already know exactly what I was doing so that they could be aware of it, and now they can invest in it because they're now aware of it. And in that video, I actually shit on the current state of clothing brands to kind of set up my delivery of the solution of using vintage garments for inspo for clothes today. And that video got over 500,000 views, and it sold out my drop the next week. And why is that? All right, it's because after watching that video, people realized three things. I run a clothing brand, there's a current problem with the clothing brand space, and my brand's positioning is the solution to those who have an issue with their current wardrobe. And design-wise, every piece looks really high quality. They've got some influencers in their clothing, which is great. And I can clearly see that there's actually love behind the development of the products. It's not like the creator doesn't care. You can see he puts a lot of effort into the actual production of his clothes and the design of his clothes, which is really, really cool to see. I love to see passion, and passion is what sells. But passion really means nothing without positioning, all right? And you could also tell that he puts a lot of effort into this, which means it's not mass produced, which means it's therefore more than likely more valuable to the customer who actually does get it, which is great. But to be quite frank, this brand kind of just looks and feels like every single other opium brand that exists out there, but that doesn't mean that they're completely cooked, right? So when looking at the overall positioning of your clothing brand, you need to understand that more than likely you're sitting in a pretty competitive market. Not only are you competing against other brands in general, but you're also competing against hundreds, if not thousands of other brands in your specific niche market. And this is why your brand's DNA and who you are as a founder is really, really, really important to give you what we call a unique selling point. And that's going to help you compete against all the other people that are sitting in your niche with you trying to compete against you. For example, with my brand Tame Psychotic, the designs are super great. They're super high quality, well referenced, but they're not revolutionary because they don't have to be. And that's because our DNA is rooted in the idea of the chaotic pursuit of an imperfect superior self. See, every single piece of content that we make, every time I open my mouth on the internet, the messaging is very, very clear. And it's also very distinct, all right? There's not a lot of other brands offering the same message. So when somebody sees our brand, they not only see clothes that they like, but they also see a world that they'd like to participate and join and be a part of. They see the lifestyle that they want to live or that already represents who they are. Say your brand, Allure New York, that's what it's missing. It's missing that DNA. It's missing that messaging. And to be honest, without this, like, you're not gonna last very long. You can only make so many great pieces. Rick Owens is always going to outdo you in terms of the avant-garde, you know, garment design and stuff like that. So my biggest piece of advice to you for Allure New York would be to develop the brand's DNA based on who you are as a founder. And if you want your brand to be unique amongst a world of other brands, you need to make it like a human being, like a very distinct, special human being. No two humans are exactly the same, all right? And your brand needs to reflect that as well. Same Psychotic is just a reflection of my journey growing up, doing reckless shit, learning from making mistakes and doing dumb things that maybe I shouldn't have done, but like I learned from. It's about the chaos and tenacious energy that just kind of lives in me, and it's what pushes me to be better and to continue to progress every single day. So my question to you is, who is the type of person that would wear Allure New York? And then once you figure that out, every single piece of marketing needs to be engineered to speak directly to that person. So I give their marketing 3 out of 5 because they have room to dominate their niche if content is done right. And I really do believe in this brand. I think the passion is what this brand has that a lot of other brands don't. And I think that brands with passion can always be corrected and positioned a little bit differently to succeed. So yeah, good shit, Allure. Okay, so brand number 2, we're going to look at Child Worldwide. So first, we're going to go over marketing. And personally, as a fellow Christian, I love diving into Christian brands because there's so much room for improvement in that niche. And there's so few high performers in that niche that there really is room to dominate. There's a lot of Christian brands, but there's not a lot of Christian brands that actually make content and market themselves correctly. So there's just so much room for growth. Now, it looks like you've got 2 video formats that are working pretty well. You've got motivational edits and public messages, but you're just not posting enough. See, 4 posts a month is just not gonna cut it. You need to bump that number to like 15 to 20. 15 to 20 at least. And what I think would probably help you with that would be the injection of a 3rd series. And that's gonna give your brand a 3rd content pillar to work with. So you're not just posting according to these 2 content pillars. You've now got something else to work with. And I think something really, really cool would just be sharing Bible verses. And the way that I'd set that up would be something pretty simple. Literally just something as simple as you sitting in the car and like going over a verse that was in a passage that you read this week that really, really struck home for you. Just kind of diving in a little bit deeper about what that means to you, how it's affected you positively, negatively, what it means to you, how it's changed your life, right? Because right now, I do understand what you're doing content-wise, but I think without the existence of some founder-led content, you're essentially just building another Christianity theme page, and that shit is washed. Like, thousands of those exist, and I think you having a face there is really, really going to set you apart from being a theme page into now being a brand with a founder, a leader, somebody to deliver the message, right? And I think another thing that you can leverage is micro-influencer collaborations. Especially within the Christian niche, it's really, really easy to conduct these simply just because Christian content creators, for the most part, they just want to spread the good news, you know? And if you provide them a cool way to spread the good news for free, you know, a lot of these guys won't even charge you. And I also just really believe micro-influencers are probably the best way right now for smaller brands to kind of hack their way up into the niche. And overall, I think most of their designs are pretty high quality, but I will say they're pretty similar to most other Christian brands design-wise. And I actually think you guys should continue to push the envelope with pieces like this, because it's a bit of a statement piece. It just kind of fits the mold of streetwear rather than just like a basic Jesus t-shirt, you know? So I'd give them like a 2 out of 5 for marketing, but high potential, very high potential. I wouldn't be going over them in this video if I didn't think they had high potential. Now, let's talk about market positioning. Now, I think this is probably the perfect time to be a brand that actually stands for something with the amount of saturation in the market. And I think they pretty much hit that nail right on the head with their Christian positioning. Google Trends definitely has it on the uprise, which makes sense with the emphasis of the implementation of religion in the past year. The world's put a lot of emphasis on that recently, which I think is awesome, by the way. And when your brand has a strong message that it kind of builds on, it makes your stuff infinitely more valuable because people aren't just buying the clothes to put a shirt on their back. They're buying in to be a part of a community because they feel served by this community and not Zara and not H&M and not Uniqlo, which I think is just imperative, needed, absolutely like required for a clothing brand to be successful in 2025. And in my opinion, the deeper that you lean into the positioning of your brand, the more alluring it becomes to that target customer. So I'd suggest just a hard lean into what you're already leaning into, and also the implementation of founder-led content to kind of set you apart from all these Christian theme pages that you see that really are difficult to differentiate from theme pages and brands, because there is no like leader and there's no like main like communication of like, oh, this is what this is, you know? So honestly, I'd give them probably a 5 out of 5 for market positioning, just because, like I said, they're rooted on something. They stand for something. It's very, very clear. I think it could be more clear, and it could be aided with the addition of founder-led content, but I'm really, really liking this. Alrighty, next we're gonna go over Pluto Made. Let's jump into marketing. And first, I really love skits like these. I think it's a really, really fun and interactive way to show your products while also pattern interrupting most people's feeds of seeing just like the product on display. I think it's just like a cool little refreshing type of content. But I think one problem that you'll run into long term is people becoming only interested in the product for the product. And the reason that's a problem is because quite literally anybody can steal your design and also make the same videos that you're making. So it really, really makes it hard for your audience to like differentiate you over, you know, the copycats and the dupes, because, you know, maybe their price points are cheaper, right? And if their price points are cheaper, they're not going to stay with you because there's nothing keeping them attached, really. There's no identity, right? And I think what's going to really take your brand to the next level is that lore and narrative that I talked about. And if you want to rehash that, go back to the first brand that I reviewed, because same rules apply. And second, I'd probably ask yourself 3 questions. The first is, who are you as a founder? The second is, what community do you want to serve? And the third is, what do those people like? What are they interested in? And the answer to those 3 questions will pretty much dictate what you need to consistently provide in terms of messaging. And this doesn't need to always be done with crazy productions like short film productions and stuff like that. It could literally just be like the same skits that you do with just like a little bit of deeper meaning and messaging like sewed into those concepts. I think a good reference for you would be something like Dershutz. They kind of do a similar thing to that. Their skits specifically tackle like fashion problems, stuff like how to successfully gatekeep your clothes, or like when your girlfriend wants to borrow your hoodie, stuff like that. And that specifically, like that like messaging creates so much room for like a streetwear audience, and that streetwear audience is going to pay, you know, a higher dollar for pieces. They're going to be much more invested in it. They're not just going to buy the clothes because it's clothes, right? They're going to buy it because it's like streetwear. They resonate with those issues, with those like, you know, like topics. It's really, really relatable to the streetwear consumer. But overall, I mean, pretty decent. I'd rate your brand marketing about a 3 out of 5. Now, let's talk about positioning though. So your designs are very, very Gen Z, and it puts you in this really massive bubble of brands that are all doing that same thing, right? Because they're trying to appeal to like the Gen Z market. They're all kind of creating the same things, and it puts you just in a very difficult position to differentiate yourself from other brands. And like I said earlier, quite literally anybody can just steal your designs and then go and make the same videos of you, maybe offer, you know, a slightly lower price point, and then steal your market share. And that's why you need that lore, you need the narrative, you need the DNA, you need the identity, the messaging that's consistently put into your content. So to be honest, until you form that identity that I'm talking about, I'd probably rate positioning like a 1 out of 5, to be honest. But there is a lot of room for growth. There's a lot of work ethic here. I can see there's passion behind it. So with the implementation of a few additional things, I think you guys could be really, really successful. Now, brand number 4, let's talk about Saba Clothing. Now, in terms of marketing, I absolutely cannot fucking stand videos like this when they're overdone. I understand it's easy, but just think about the millions of other brands using the same type of videos with the same trending audios, the same cuts. It's just gonna be so hard for you to stand out amongst all of those other brands, and you're cooked, to be completely transparent, if you continue to do this. Because newsflash, guys, a trending audio or a hashtag or some kind of social hack that some clothing brand gurus told you, that shit is not going to blow up your brand. It's not going to set you apart from other brands, and you're cooked. Your days are numbered, essentially. That shit is not going to save your clothing brand. A community is going to save your clothing brand. Also, at first glance, I'd say that your brand seems to speak to more of like the hip-hop streetwear culture. So I'd say just dive deeper into this throughout your messaging consistently. And I think think one piece of content I'd like to see you push is kind of like this public stunt content. I actually took that out of the brand We're Not Really Strangers content playbook, and I actually might start incorporating this into my brand's content strategy as well. But real quick, the way you pull this off in the clothing brand space is to go to like an area where your like target customer, your ICP, would like hang out. For me, that'd be like car meetups, bike rallies, fights, UFC events, motocross events, stuff like that. And then literally just set up like a clothing rack and then a mirror and then a sign that says try me on. And if you pull that off correctly, you could literally have like your target customer, your ideal customer profile, trying on your clothes on video, and then you can post that on your brand's page, and it just like shows more notoriety, shows community, shows, you know, people really putting that shit on organically, like user generated content. I honestly think it's pretty untapped. I think it's kind of a genius virality stunt, and I also think it just makes your community like more aware that you exist, at least your local community, which is really, really cool. And real quick, I just want to re-stress how important community is. Take my student Lauren, for example. He did 9K in sales in a week with his brand, and it's literally, he doesn't even have a big following. He doesn't run ads. He literally just has a tight knit community, and he didn't like sell them online. He actually went and he took his products to his community. He went to events within his community and sold them to his community there, and they're great clothes, and he had a great brand, which is why he did so well that week. And if you're interested in that whole situation, I did a full interview breakdown with him. I will post that somewhere here. Just go watch it on my YouTube channel. It's fucking fire. Lauren's killing it, and he's going to continue to kill it. So as far as marketing, there isn't really even a ton of content on your page right now. I get you're probably more of a new brand, but for now, I'd say your marketing is probably at like a 1 out of 5 for the moment. It could definitely improve. I wouldn't like, again, I wouldn't be going over your brand in this video if there was not potential for a lot of improvement. So good shit. Don't take this as an insult. I'm just trying to help. Yeah. Market positioning again. So your brand's positioning is very similar to brand number 3 that I just covered. And that's where quite literally anybody can just copy your designs. And that's where your marketing is going to come into play to really set you apart from the copycats and create something that is not copyable, I guess. I don't know if that's a fucking word, but I'm gonna use it anyways. So as far as market positioning, I'd probably rate a 2 out of 5, simply just because you are in that hip hop kind of streetwear community. So there is a lot of market available to you, and you are targeting someone. All right, there's a pretty big market that you could serve. You just need to serve them a little bit better with marketing, with content, with direction, and then consistent messaging. And then on the flip side of that, having a large market to serve and like sell to also means you've got a shit ton of competition. All right, which means the pressure's on for you to really find your way to set yourself apart from these other guys, develop a brand identity, develop messaging, develop that, and kind of sew that messaging into your marketing, and also just get creative with your marketing. All right, because obviously anybody can get creative with a design these days. You can jip a design faster than fucking you can eat a bologna sandwich. I mean, it's so easy to do that. You literally just screenshot your shit, scan it in, send it to a designer, say, hey, make this shit for me. Boom. You know, $30 later, somebody's got your design. They're sending it off to their manufacturer. $90 later, they have a sample in hand, and then one social media post later, your shit's getting copied. And then if they offer it better than you did, if they show better than you did, they market better than you did, you're cooked. So yeah, just bear that in mind. All right, guys, that is it for today's brand reviews, which you guys just saw me breaking down these brands, you know, diagnosing the problems and then offering a prescription solution. That's just the tip of the iceberg of what me and my team do. Because here's the thing, all right, every single brand is different. They serve different communities. They make different clothes. They have different problems. They have different solutions to fix those problems. And they each need a different blueprint to lay out the action items for them to reach those goals, those 6-figure goals, 5-figure goals, whatever it is. And that's exactly what we do, working with us, Urban Unity, with me and my team of expert assistant coaches. Love these guys. We have actually built probably the craziest education opportunity for clothing brand owners, and it's not even really close. I've invested so much into the fulfillment behind this, the community behind this. I've hired like 4 experts. They're not even like big on social media. They're just huge in the space in terms of like experience. Just a team of killers alongside a community of killers, just like you guys, working hard to build their brand. All right. So if you want that level of personalized help, just tap the link link in the description to apply to work with us. We don't take on many people, to be honest. I only take on people I like because I'm a creative asshole. But if I like your stuff and we like your stuff and the team likes your stuff, we'd love to work with you. We'll review your application, see if you're a good fit to work with us. As always, I'm in your corner. I always have been. I truly love what I've built, and I really enjoy helping other people, you know, chase after their dreams too. So until the next video, see you in the next one. Good luck, guys. Keep it up. Y'all got this.